reality show fame, Jon Gosselin has spent over a decade fighting a very public divorce and custody battle for his 8 children. Allegations of cheating, abandonment, abuse, and manipulation spread in the headlines. But Jon couldn't legally respond. Now the 10-year gag order has been lifted, and Jon is here to set the record straight, telling his truth like you've never heard it before. Jon Gosselin, first famous as the father on Jon and Kate Plus 8, America's beloved reality TV show about a couple and their 8 kids. And then infamous after the couple divorced. It was nasty. Kate accused Jon of cheating and dealing drugs, while Jon accused Kate of torturing their kids. Jon also made headlines for partying, even stripping at nightclubs, and womanizing. But now, Jon has a serious girlfriend. And although he's estranged from most of his children, 2 of the sextuplets live with him. In a recent Instagram post, Jon said he loves his life. But with a gag order related to litigation with the network that ran his show finally lifted, will he spill any grudges against Kate? Speaking out for the first time on our show, please welcome Jon Gosselin. So the audience was very excited to visit with you today.
Oh,
lots of questions. So your name evokes that. And it was important for you to be here as well, to set the record straight. Why?
I think, well, I had the gag order for 10 years. And, you know, that was put in place by, well, one, TLC, and then family court as well, to protect the kids.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, it was reasonable. But then it just kind of dragged out as they got older. And then rumors were cropping up anyway. But it got to a point where I couldn't defend myself because Kate's show continued. And it just got super difficult. And I didn't have a platform. So I really didn't have a voice.
What's your relationship like with your ex-wife, Kate, now?
We don't have a relationship right now. So we don't talk, nothing. It's very nothing. The only time I see my ex-wife is in court, because we've exhausted all opportunities to co-parent. Like, it's just never going to happen due to personality disorders and everything else. We just have different aspects on how we want to parent. And moving forward, you know, my twins are 19 years old now, and my sextuplets are almost 16. So we're moving down the path of, you know, 2 more years, we're going to have all adults.
So a lot of folks who've watched your story carefully, and that's a good part of the U.S. population, see you as the villain. That's how it's come across.
I was portrayed as the villain because Kate asked for the divorce, and they needed a reason, or the network needed a reason to explain to the public what was going on. So she asked for the divorce in 2009. I left the show. There was 9 months hiatus. And then we were already divorced, and then the paparazzi started taking pictures of me dating other women and all this stuff. But on TV, it was shown as me being married. So the public was being fooled because on television, I'm married. But in reality, I'm already divorced.
Take me back to the beginning. Whose idea was the show in the first place? Was that you or Kate?
Kate's decision.
Kate came to you and said, honey, I've got an idea, or someone called us? How did it start?
She called me at work and said they want to film a 1-hour documentary on Discovery Health. And then the reality show came into effect. She called me at work and they want to film a reality show. So I said, well, if it's going to pay the bills, let's just see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. And we're still on Discovery Health. We're not on TLC yet. So our first season was 8 episodes. Our second season was 12. Our third season was 40 episodes.
Ooh.
And then our 4th season was 52 episodes.
Let me give people some numbers on this. I looked it up. The height of its reality show, Jon and Kate Plus 8, was attracting 10 million viewers per week. For comparison, most big primetime network sitcoms today are not pulling in those numbers. I'm interested in some of the conflicts that happened because of the show. I understand its success. But were there blurred lines? Was it sometimes hard to tell where the family ended and the show began?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember one time, February 2008, we filmed every single day except for 2. There got to points where I was pushing camera crew out of our house. And then the network would come down and say, you have to film. And I would say, no, I don't. So I was always the heavy, and then Kate would be like, you're going to get us fired. And I'm like, I don't care if we get fired. Like, this is ridiculous. This is not my job. This is not my career. This is my life. Like, I don't need cameras in my house all the time. And, you know, it was getting very commercialized, where we said, oh, for instance, I want to use Pampers, but we want you to use Huggies because of advertising, you know, and all those kind of things. And I'm like, well, I want to use what's best for my kid, not what's best for the network. So little things started to play an effect and commercialize and branding and marketing and all these things, which also started driving wedges in our marriage, because she was like, no, we have to do what they say. And I'm like, no, I'm doing what's best for our kid. You start to live 2 different lives then.
Do you think your marriage would have remained intact if it wasn't for the cameras?
You know, a lot of people ask me that, and it's hard to live in a hypothetical. But I think eventually, because of personality, it would have fizzled out anyway. Because first of all, I got married at 22 years old. And you just don't know, you know.
And you mentioned earlier, repeated it now, that there was a personality issue. What is the personality issue? Whose is it? Is it you? Is it Kate? What's the problem?
Well, I think it's both of us. But I think she has a narcissistic personality disorder.
Narcissistic?
Yep. I think she tends to think more on her level, selfishly instead of for others. I think I tend to think sometimes more for others than for myself. So I tend to not worry what's going on with me when I should sometimes. But I also think that I tend to look more towards my kids and what's the best for them once I had them. But I also feel I'm passive aggressive, which I got from my father. So I only learned all this stuff. I went through tons of therapy. I still go to a therapist.
So let's go back to Kate for a second. So even before the cameras were coming in, did you perceive an issue? She's narcissistic, you're saying. You're passive aggressive. Those things don't tend to go together well. Were you already having issues?
I didn't really notice those personality disorders till after filming. Fame and money. And I think fame's worse than money.
How did the fame make it worse?
Fame's different only because fame, things are given to you. You're held to a higher standard. You're put on a pedestal. The attention. And it's like almost like a drug, you know, like an addiction. And, you know, once you have that and that lifestyle, you can see certain tendencies in people. It feeds and feeds and feeds.
So you're struggling along. The show is airing, doing incredibly well in the ratings.
Oh, huge.
And you want to pull back from filming, and you start having marriage issues to the point that you want a divorce. How did the network respond to that?
Well, Kate wanted a divorce. So she came to me.
Oh, it came all from her?
Yes. Yep. She wanted a divorce. She asked me, she didn't want to be married anymore.
Why?
Because I didn't want to film anymore. I wasn't part of the business model anymore.
She was going to divorce you because of the filming?
That's correct.
Not because of your passive aggression or not helping with the kids? Or
No. I stayed home. She was on speaking tours. So she was traveling with her bodyguard. She was going on speaking tours. I was home with the nanny and watching the kids and doing all the kid stuff.
Did she think you were having an affair?
Not with the nanny at that point. We had the same nanny for 3 years. She thought I was having an affair after, during separation in 2009. Which I wasn't, no.
You were not having an affair?
No.
Until you got divorced, did you have an affair with anyone?
No. Right. Nope.
She approaches you. She wants a separation. What did you say?
I was like, it was out of the blue, too, because I was sitting at the dining room table, and I was just like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm done. I don't want this anymore. You know, you don't want to film. You don't want to go along with my plan and filming and the kids and this and the house. And I'm like, nope, I don't. And you know what's funny? The network thought I was nuts. They actually hired me a therapist and a psychiatrist and they psych-evaled me.
Why did they think you were nuts?
Because I would give up millions of dollars not to film and just go live a normal life. I said enough was enough. And then I didn't understand why they kept on doing this. And then I found out we made them $186 million a quarter. When you're making, $186 million a quarter for a company, you can't just go quit. So the CEO's got to explain to their shareholders, the president, why the shares dropped. Because I took the show off the air. I literally hung a sign on my gate saying, if any crew members show up, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. They sued me for breach of contract. I pretty much bankrupted myself, but I did it for moral reasons, obviously. I've spent $1.7 million in lawyers' fees from when TLC sued me and my divorce. Kate, on the other hand, TLC paid for her attorneys in the lawsuit and for her divorce. So I financed it by myself, and she was financed by the network. And I didn't understand at first why, but now I understand why. All she wanted was legal custody to film my kids, to sustain her lifestyle and their lifestyle. See, it gets all warped. That's fame, though. See, it just twists things around, thinking that you have to sustain the whole thing.
All right, so we reached out to TLC for a statement, and they did not get back to us in time for taping. When we come back, Jon directly addresses the allegations of abuse between Kate and their son Colin, who she says has special needs, including a look at the so-called escape letter that his son wrote. We're back with Jon Gosselin, who rose to fame on the reality show featuring his family, Jon and Kate +8. So you made some very serious allegations about Kate, specifically regarding your son Colin. This is important. I want to talk about Colin because it's sort of an example of the conflict you two of you have had. Do you believe that Kate is an unfit mother?
Well, I believe that her belief system is skewed. That's what I believe. I believe her intentions in the beginning were good intentions, bringing kids into the world, that she fought to have these kids. But I think once fame and money got involved, it twisted her belief system. On my end, I've been fighting to get my kids off TV forever. Now, my son's been to therapists. He's been in institutions.
This is Colin.
This is Colin. He's diagnosed with, he has 5 different diagnoses. He's on medications. He goes to therapists. He goes to traumatologists. He goes to all these doctors and psychiatrists and all these things, all because of his mother, diagnosed, and television, diagnosed, proven by professional people with over 20 years experience, I mean, how can I argue that?
What's the diagnosis they've given him that's forcing him to be in institutions against his will?
Well,
he's age 12, right?
Right. So Kate, institutionalized him without a diagnosis and then created a diagnosis. I pulled him out of the institution. He was wrongfully institutionalized. He did not need to be in an institution. Just because he was a difficult child did not mean he needed to be sent away. Against my will, against my right. I did not know where he went. And it took me 2.5 years to find him. And then it took me an extra year to get him out.
Jon, how's it possible you did not know where your son is? You have custody over these children.
I had physical custody and not legal at the time. And the only way I found out that I knew where Colin was is Colin wrote a letter and his roommate smuggled it out. His roommate called my manager. My manager vetted the roommate because you never know, it could be anyone.
Right.
And that's how I found out that where Colin was.
Can I show everyone the letter?
Yeah.
I'll put it up for everyone to see. I'm just going to read a couple parts of it. This is his handwritten in crayon. This is a picture of the escape letter, so-called. It says, I'm not trying to trick you, but I still love you. I told Mom I want to live with you, but she said no. And then later on, 2 sentences down, she says, she was abusive to me after I left your house. I'm sorry. I'm counting on you to get me out of here. It's painful to read that from a 12-year-old.
Yep.
How'd you feel when you saw that crayon-written letter of desperation?
It was heartbreaking. And I was actually in the airport in Mexico when it was sent to me. And I felt like we got to figure this out. So once I got joint legal, I presented the letter to the judge. Obviously, he was like, this is crazy. We asked Kate, where is he? She wouldn't tell him. I said, I don't need to know. I have the letter now. And I called the special needs facility. They said, Mr. Gosselin, we'll do anything you want. You can be fully involved. I got my car. I drove to him. The first time I saw him in 3 years.
What was that like, seeing your son?
Oh, man, I cried. And he was different because he was on, like, Thorazine and, like, all these medicines, like, all doped up. His pictures now, he weighed 75 pounds more than what you see now because he was tranquilized most of the time.
And how's he doing now?
He's a straight student. He's in JROTC. He has... it's crazy.
How's that possible? They went from being institutionalized on Thorazine, and again, I'm saying this according to you because I can't validate this, to living home normal with you.
Love. Now, we create a family environment for him. I visit him in Pittsburgh twice a month for a year. Now, my girlfriend is a nurse practitioner in mental health. She's a psych NP. So I learned all that. I work in a clinical healthcare system. I'm the IT director of a clinical... So I had to learn all this stuff.
But with love?
Oh, yeah. Like love. That's it. And just caring about a human that I haven't... Like, I had to have reconnection therapy because I don't know anything about him. So I had to learn all this stuff.
All right, so we reached out to a representative for Kate for comment, and they did not get back to us in time for taping. We'll be right back.